my name is Angel, and welcome to the first tutorial on this channel. It's been asked of me to go over modeling an entire body of a low poly model, and so here I am doing that. It's been a while, so I just want to thank everybody who has been asking me that they've been so patient with me. You know, it's taken a while for me to actually get started this recording, so I'm recording now. So let's just go ahead and get started. As you see, this is what we're going to be creating in the end, and it works pretty well actually. But you'll see that once we get finished. Now, before you begin any kind of model, it's a good idea to have some sort of reference. If it's a character or most other hard surface models, you're going to want to have at least a front and side view of whatever you're modeling. So to begin with, I'm just going to create a simple plane here. Go into perspective, okay. And we go ahead into our material editor. We're going to find the rotation that I created for this. Now, the rotation that I created for this particular video, I was asked to go over modeling a certain type of low poly character model that appears in some MMO, and it kind of actually looks like the models used in Bravely Default, for instance. So that's what I did. I went ahead and found some images, and I kind of traced over them to see how they kind of felt, how they moved, and how they looked, and then I drew up a rotation based off of that. And you can see it's just front and a side view. And I went ahead and also drew in where my polygons are going to lay and how my edges are going to flow. Now, you don't need to do this. It will come in handy just so you're not really fumbling around and guessing all of your work. So this is very important. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and allow us to see this on our plane, and I'm actually going to beef up the self-illumination just so it's kind of bright and it's not going to fall into shadow here. Now, it's a little squished, and that's fine for now. What we're going to do is we're going to go back into View Image, and I'm going to right-click here, and it will show me what the dimensions are, and it's a 1280 by 800 image, so that's really easy to remember. So let's see, we'll go into Modify Panel, and I'm just going to type in 800 here, and 1280 on the width, and that will give us the perfect dimensions for this. We can go ahead and hide that now. And I'm going to scale this down because we don't need it that big. Alright, that should do. I'm going to move this back here behind the thing. Now, so you want to position the front view so it's as close to being centered as you can. And what I like to do is position the feet to be on the 0 of the z-axis so that it's kind of like it's actually standing up on it. And there you go. That's your first reference in place. I'm going to actually move this back a little further. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the modifier list, and you don't necessarily have to do this, it'll just help keep everything nice and clean. I'm going to add a UVW map on here, and then I'm going to add an edit poly modifier onto the plane. And what this will allow me to do is I can move. Wait, hang on. I need to put these in different order. Okay. It'll allow me to move vertices and shrink down the plane without actually changing what the UVs are doing. So I can just see the front end here. And that's perfect. And now we also need the side view. So I'm going to shift rotate this. My angle snaps. And rotate it a perfect 90 degrees. Is it okay? And we're going to move it right around here to be in place with this side. And then in the UVW mapping, we're going to get in the drop-down menu and select Gizmo. And this will allow us to move the UVs without moving the actual mesh. So we can just move it on the Y-axis and get it to kind of be kind of right on here. Actually, I'm going to have to rotate this around. So we'll get out of that. Going to rotate. Just flip it over. There we go. Move this whole thing over. So there's the modeling station. Everything is in place, and you're ready to actually start modeling. Okay, now before we get started, I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to right-click, go to Object Properties, and I'm going to freeze them and check off Frozen in Gray. And that way they'll be frozen and we can't select them anymore, we can't interact with these anymore at all, and they won't be frozen in gray, so we can actually see our references. So, in the front view, I'm going to go ahead and get started with a box, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put it in green's a good color, I guess. Oh wait, I messed that up. Okay, well that's a good color too. Okay, go back to perspective. Okay, so before we start, we're going to grab the move. We're going to zero this out on the X and Y so it's perfectly centered in the middle. And in the modify panel, I'm going to add a width segment just to make this a little bit easier. And I'm going to convert the whole thing into an editable poly. And then we're going to select these polygons and delete them. No longer need those. And in fact, I don't need these two either. So this is kind of all we have to start with. And hit 1. So what we're gonna do here is just you can, if you've gone ahead and made all of your edges on your reference, then you can follow that very easily and almost to the T. And we're just going to block out for now everything here. Make sure that if you're going to move the edges that are in the center of where your model is going to be, you don't move it on the X. You only move them on the Y. You want them to be completely zeroed out. Or zeroed out on the X anyway. Okay. Edges. And bring this down. And I'm just going to make this see-through so we can see what we're doing. So what you should have is this weird shaped box. If we go into our right view. Alright, so here we're going to move. Oops. I'm gonna move this back. I suppose. Alt X, you want to make sure that you're following both sides of the reference. So after you've had time to get everything working with the front view, go into the side view and move your vertices around so they follow your reference. And it really couldn't be any simpler. And I'm going to go ahead and add another edge loop around here on the side. So I'll do okay. Grab all of these. Just push them in a little bit. Grab all of these on the corner. Push them in a little bit. Okay. Now, before we continue on, we're going to go into the modify list, and we're going to add a symmetry modifier to it. And this is going to add the other side of our body in so we can really see what it's looking like. And so far, it's not looking half bad. Go in here. So let's keep going with the pelvis area. So yeah, just keep following your reference. You may have heard, if you're used to modeling, that triangles are bad or something, or you should avoid triangles at all costs. But really, triangles aren't bad. In fact, in most game settings, modelers will use nothing but triangles, and actually in some movies, you'll see that as well. Though really, I think that rule is more about having a triangle where you don't need one. Or rather, if you had a triangle like right in the middle of one of your four-sided polygons, then that would end up making your entire mesh look weird, and it won't work correctly when it's all rigged and skinned, because that triangle is just going to be in the way. However, if you decide that you're going to put triangles in anyway, if you were to cut four-sided polys in a way so that you still have the actual square, then what you're really doing is you're forcing that polygon to bend in a certain way. All four-sided polygons are able to bend in half as if they were just two triangles, and adding that edge in kind of just defines where that edge is going to be for that one polygon. So now I'm going to go into perspective, grab my edge, this edge, and I'm just going to bring it all the way around. And I guess for now, just so that we can get this cleaned up and finished, I'm going to weld these two together, and I'm just going to weld this one over here. It's not where it should be, but it's where it needs to be for now, just so it's out of the way and we have this ring of edges for the leg. Before I finish with that, I'm going to cut one more time. Just to put an edge there. Let's go into our right view again. We're just going to different references. Making sure that the the model is following along with it. Going to put that there. Okay, so there's the torso. Again, it can use some refining. The reference is there not as a set-in-stone guide, but more of a, you know, a reference. So I'll go ahead and fix that up, and I'll meet you guys in the next episode, or the next video, where we're going to go ahead and put on the arms and the legs.